Hey, welcome on in, everybody. Tobin here with you in the wee hours of the morning. Just got back from being boots on the ground at the Kaseya Center. Oh, brutal drive. Heavy rain, uh, car accident, um, lanes being taken up. My exit home was walled off. So, all of that after, by the way, the Miami Heat blew a 16-point lead, collapsed in the fourth quarter to watch them lose to the Brooklyn Nets and lose 109-105 at home. And now have more losses than anybody in the Eastern Conference. Tied for the only team that has more losses than them right now are the Memphis Grizzlies, who are 0-5. And things aren't great in Heatland. I can't sugarcoat it in any way right now. It's like we've been talking about it. I walked in today and, some people were kind of agreeing with how I was feeling about, just kind of the ether over the entire organization just being very tense right now. Social media activity from people in the organization, people around players in the organization. Just tensions are running high right now. And then it was interesting because got to Eric Spoelstra's press conference today and Spo's birthday, which adorable. Spoelstra dressing like Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel for Halloween with the kiddies dressed in their Dolphins gear. So that was cool. But it was Spo's birthday and he was asked this really how do I put this? It was like such a non-invasive question by Anthony Chang of the Miami Herald, who does a fantastic job. As professional as they come. And he was just basically, all he asked was, I'll play the clip for you here, but he was like asking Eric Spoelstra about Jimmy's knee injury because Jimmy is dealing with a knee. And there was, whenever Jimmy is injured, so there's always a question of, is he going to play? The injury status as the day went on seemed very positive. He's dealing with knee tendonitis. But you always wonder with Jimmy, is this something that they're going to have to deal with? And Anthony just happened to ask, like, hey, this is the same knee that has given him trouble in the past. This is something you guys have to manage. And Spo was just like very quick to be like, I'm not talking about injuries anymore. I'm not talking about it. I'm not worried about, their job is to make themselves available. And that's that.
I know Jimmy might play tonight, but the right knee is the same that's been giving him issues for the past few years. Is the feeling that that's something you guys will have to continue to manage?
I'm not going to talk about anybody's injuries anymore. If anybody's hurt, if they're not available, all they have to do is focus on being available. That's it. And I'm not talking about any injuries or who's in, who's out. I know who's playing tonight, and that's all I'm focused on.
It's just kind of an odd reaction to have, especially with the idea that Jimmy was going to play, where, Spo speaks, I think, an hour and 15 minutes before tip-off. The media department had just come in there and said that Jimmy was warming up basically with the intention that he was going to play, basically. Go through his routine, and it was all positive. So it wasn't like Jimmy's not going to play or Jimmy is holding out of playing. So it was just kind of an odd tension that was there. Then Spo, had this whole thing coming into the game about he wanted to make Brooklyn uncomfortable and that they wanted to change their disposition and that they wanted to protect home court, and putting the intensity and the importance on this game. He had talked about after they had gotten swept on the road trip that they had a big week ahead of them. And so, yeah, he was coming in with what really felt like I don't want to say it was a sense of urgency because that was, kind of the term thrown around at in the post game, but he came in with with an edge to him, it felt like. And, for 3 quarters in this game against the Nets, it felt very much like, the Heat are very banged up next team. They don't have Nick Claxton. They don't have Spencer Dinwiddie. They don't have a handful of their guys. And so they're basically playing with a centerless team. They got Ben Simmons out there playing the 5. He had like 4 fouls and, the first half, I think. And Miami just seemed like they were in cruise control in this game. Bam Adebayo just kept taking Ben Simmons down in the post, doing this beautiful turnaround jumper in his face. Tyler Hero was hitting threes. You had Haywood Highsmith lighting it up. Jimmy looked better physically than he had all season. I would say he was getting to his spots. We still haven't had that signature Jimmy game by any means because he only had 20 points tonight, but he looked fine. He was doing a little bit of everything. He got a steal and got out on the break. You were seeing, I think, the most Jimmy Butler that we have seen all year. Like it was that kind of performance from him. But I mean the second half numbers are just bleep insane when you go and look at what they did in that fourth quarter comparatively to what they had been doing the entire game. It just all fell apart on them. And they shot 37%, 3 of 11 from downtown. The Nets, meanwhile, scored nearly at they shot 58%. They hit 6 of 10 from downtown. They got to the free throw line 7 times to the Miami Heat's 2. And the Miami Heat turned the ball over. They gave up 11 points off turnovers. It was just a complete meltdown. And this Heat team is just, I mean, this 4-game lose, they've lost every single way. They lost a really close game down the stretch to Boston. There's no shame in that game. Okay. They go into Minnesota. They're very banged up. Pretty much back and forth, but they really let go of the rope in the fourth quarter. You have a Milwaukee game where they're just getting basically drubbed over the head and then make this valiant comeback with like Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Jay Rich, and the 2 rookies, which it might as well feel like I called Nikola Jovic that. But and then you have today, which is basically what could have happened in the Detroit game, where it all just gets away with them. They get completely clogged up. And this was basically the opposite of the Detroit game, where Detroit wasn't able to get over the finish line. They almost did. And then you have this game where it all completely fell apart and you get outscored 34-22 in the final frame. So I don't, what do you want me to sit here and say? Like, do you want me to sit here and say, hey, wasn't it interesting that Jaime Jaquez started tonight? Or, boy, Haywood Highsmith really gave you some good minutes. He did. But, yeah, it's impossible not to feel like something is wrong with this team as far as the talent that they have and not being able, because Spoke kept using the term sustain and how they're not able to sustain whatever it is. Now, to be fair, a lot of this sustaining and blowing the big leads, that was a big problem last year too. They would do this all the time where they would be up 15, up 20, up, double digits and rest on their laurels and the lead would go away like that. That happened a lot last year too. But there's just been a hopelessness in these fourth quarters. The fourth quarter has been, usually it's third quarter that you get, crazy about. But outside of the Bucks game, where they made their comeback in the fourth quarter, every other game, the fourth quarter has just been disaster city for them. And that's including their only win against Detroit. Because you could really look at this and say, yeah, the Miami Heat are this close to being winless this season. This close to being 0-5. And the vibes are terrible. This is off a summer where you didn't get who you thought you were going to get. A lot of your rotation was in trade rumors. You don't know if the stars are happy or not. You have a coach who seems very much on edge. You have ownership, maybe not, subtweeting, who the hell knows what their feelings are, but kind of feeling a little underappreciated by the fan base too, while the fan base is lashing out at them. it's all bad right now, man. And I don't really know what fixes it other than they need to go on some kind of a run, but I don't know what kind of faith you could have in that happening. Because you really look at it tonight and it's like, yeah, Bam, Jimmy was okay. Bam, pretty good. You know, you got 21 and 10 from Bam today. Don't, like much of the team that was not a, was okay in the fourth quarter. But they just, Jaime had a really rough shooting night. Kyle Lowry continues to be a single-digit wonder. Not a fantastic shooting night for Duncan Robinson. Everybody else on the team outside of the three starters, they all gave you single digits. Nobody else other than those guys were in double digits for the Heat. And on the other end of it, you just got really great shooting. You got a really great shooting night from a lot of the bench guys on, especially Armani Brooks on the net side of things, and in that fourth quarter, they were just lighting it up from three, dude. They were just lighting it up from three. So here's a little bit after the game. This was asked Jimmy Butler about, what's the balance of urgency or just thinking that things are going to get right. And Jimmy Butler is not sitting around here thinking, usually Jimmy's like, hey, we got, he's always confident and he, is always saying we're going to win the championship and all that stuff. But Jimmy's like, no, it's about now. It's about getting this right now.
Jimmy, you guys know it's a long journey, but what is the balance between the urgency of getting things right and knowing that, things are still coming together for you guys?
It's a right now situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't ever want to lose games home and or away. So we got to figure it out now. Like, I don't think anybody here plays to lose, so we always want to win. And we do lose and we do win, but more than anything, we do that stuff together. So at the end of the day, yeah, we need to correct it, and we will, but it's all about right now. It's winning now.
And then you have Tyler asking him in the locker room about this, and he's, saying that, whatever we've done, all that stuff, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with this year. And that they got to find some solutions.
It's a new year, but you guys have had so many seasons going deep. How do you find that as a team emotionally to get to that urgency, to get to a point where it's important to get these wins now?
Yeah, the past runs really don't have any, meaning on this season. It's a new season. Every year's a new year, and we have to, like I said before, figure out ways, solutions to win games. Can't feel sorry for ourselves, and no one feels sorry for us. It's on us and these guys in this locker room.
And Bam, after the game, talking about that they can't get the hole, they can't dig it too deep. It cannot really get any deeper than this. So they got this in-season tournament thing that's starting on Friday against the Wizards. You can't take any game for granted, and you can't chalk up any wins because, while they haven't had the easiest schedule to start the year, you don't have any proof right now in the start of the season that this Heat team can get something to the finish line, because it just seems when they get to that fourth quarter, something is a little bit amiss. I feel like I should do a different video to talk about the Jovic thing. I don't get it. I will always say though, like people are like, kind of like chuckling at my Jovic take. He didn't play today, which is kind of crazy to me. But the only reason it's crazy to me is just like, you can just see how stagnant things get with this team. And I just feel like he is a ball of energy. He's unselfish. I don't understand it. In fact, I had somebody today who was just like kind of skeptical of my take before the game. And then like after the game, I see that same person and they're just like, yeah, why isn't he playing? especially in a game where Kevin Love and Caleb Martin aren't out there. Like, why isn't he getting any playing time whatsoever? It's just odd to me, man. But again, I feel like it's another video for another day. I think that this is just to tell you that, yeah, I think that the Heat are in as bad a spot right now as I can remember them being. There were some bad ones last year. There were some awful Hornets losses that I was really down by. But it's the other stuff. It's not just that the basketball feels like it's on repeat and that it's a little stale and that it's so predictable how things are falling apart and when they don't go right. But it's also on top of that, everybody feels like it just feels like it's very fragile right now. And that if they lose on Friday and they drop to 1-5 with the Lakers coming to town, and yeah, it feels like it could get really bad really soon. And it's like, it sucks to say that because hell, man, like this team has shown that they are able to handle adversity, but you knew that coming into this year, there was going to be a little bit of tension. That whole everybody doubts us thing. It's a great rallying cry, but it's also like, well, can it work if you guys don't really believe in each other? So it's definitely something to monitor, man. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. This was for a game that felt very, very comfortable, for it all to go away like that was disappointing, especially knowing how intense the coach was coming into tonight. But they'll be that, and they are practicing, I guess technically later today because it's 1 a.m, but they are practicing. So, which is not common when, they're in the regular season. They don't practice a lot. Now they are home, so nobody has to travel. I'm sure it's not going to be a Hunger Games practice, which is maybe part of the reason Spo was so tense there. I mean, I saw some people say again, like that was there some tension with Jimmy with that answer. I didn't take it like that, but I do think that everybody has their stuff being questioned. And I think that some people are wondering, did the Heat go too hard at practice because all of their players outside of like Tyler and Duncan are hurt? Like, did something happen there? And the coach got a little sensitive about it because I don't know. I just found that to be a very odd reaction that he had. But there's a lot of odd reactions going on around the Heat right now. It's not happy times at 601 Biscayne Boulevard.